Yep.
Hey, first item is master board training.
I don't know if there's any interest in doing it. But we've had, in fact, the last time we had Dr. Norris was the superintendent. It's a $4,000, 22-hour curriculum. And the first one is 10 hours, either in Kissimmee or Ocala, isn't it? Do we want to look into it
They
further?
don't do it down here?
The 10-hour one they don't. Then you come. It's either March 5th and 6th in Ocala, which we couldn't do because I'm not here then. April 9th to the 10th in Ocala. May 6th to the 7th, Ocala. May 6th to 7th and September 17th and 18th are both in Kissimmee. And then there's one to be announced in the Panhandle.
What was the cost
$4,000
per individual or total?
total.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Let me have that second date, please, Cheryl. April?
The Ocala is April 9th to the 10th, May 6th to the 7th, through September 17th to 18th, and Kissimmee was the last two. I mean, I guess first we want to know, would we want to do it, and then could we do it? Everybody has to, everybody has to go, the whole team.
I think it's a good idea, especially right now.
When I first got on the board, I wanted to do this, and nobody really was into it. And we still had on our website that we were a master board, so I took that off. But I think it would be good, because I've never been through it, Bridget's never been through it, so that the two of us at least are newer. And I think it helps us all to get along well and to understand issues and the teamwork that we need to.
Well, I'll tell you,
Yeah,
I have absolutely zero interest in doing it.
I knew that.
And I will not do it. Given what went on last election cycle, I don't know who on this board I can trust. Not sure who in the district I can trust. So to go around in a room and sit around and sing Kumbaya, I have zero interest in doing it.
You mean 2 years, you mean the election cycle last year?
No, in November.
November?
I'm not going to rehash it, but I did just think it was absolutely disgusting display, and I have absolutely no interest in doing master board training and sit around singing Kumbaya.
I might point out that's probably more of a reason to do it than not, but
I disagree.
I get concerned with the cost. I see a benefit to a degree, but I get concerned with the cost of all of the additional things with FSBA that we are doing on top of what we already pay. So that's why I want to keep an idea or a tab on that. You know, what do we pay to the FSBA? It's $28,000, I think, for a year.
18,
It's 15?
18, I think.
18?
I think.
And then, you know, and I know that they offer a lot of different things throughout the year, and those tick up pretty quickly, I can imagine. So I think that's something we need to be cautious of also. And that was where my concern was with this. You know, whether the cost of it, are there other options for us to do?
Anything that I do is paid for, so it doesn't come out of the district.
Okay.
the master board training would go.
That comes out of the district expense.
Right.
But anything else I do, that's not expensive.
We done with that one? Okay.
Well, we're not, I mean,
Well, like I said, if y'all want to do
we have
it
to.
without
well,
me,
no,
knock
no,
yourself
no,
out.
to it. We have to have everybody in.
Well, I'm sorry, I told you, I have absolutely
No, we
zero
don't have to have
interest.
everybody in.
Yeah.
Well, I think.
To be a designated master
To
board,
be
you
a-
can still take master board training. I don't think there's any rule that says you can't take master board training, but I think it's a little bit of a misnomer to call yourself a master board when
Well, that's
you got board members campaigning against other board members, so. Anyway.
You know, but.
I don't believe I have ever campaigned against any sitting board members.
Well, then, I guess I missed something last year.
Any sitting board members that weren't appointed.
Okay.
I always get caught in a lie. But the last I looked, it was a nonpartisan race.
Hey,
Well-
you do whatever you want to do. I'm just telling you that it left a very bad taste in my mouth, that I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of days in master board training so I can say that I'm master board trained. I've did that before.
Well,
I
I
didn't see the
know
benefit.
that when I was running for the legislature, Caroline and her husband were very involved in the Republican Party and actively campaigned against me every time. Working through FSBA helped me work with her and see her in a different light. So I think that helps heal those things. And, you know, if we want to keep that out there and not try to resolve those issues, then we wouldn't bother doing this. But if we wanted to resolve it, then, I mean, I think that's one way to resolve issues like that. I mean, but elections come and elections go. You're lucky it's only every 4 years here. I mean, the legislature was every 2. And, I mean, there you get sitting speakers working against you. But you got to turn around and work with them. And, you know,
I agree.
I'm ready to put on my big girl panties and go and try to work it out.
No, I think everyone is, and that, to your point, we move forward and have it here, but is
Yep.
it necessary to go on a retreat to make that feel better or heal wounds? I have no wounds, so I'm good, but.
Well, I have no wounds either. I just told you I have zero interest in doing it.
I
That's,
had no wounds.
All right, do we need a maximum of 5? Would we get a maximum of 5?
It doesn't sound like it, so
Sounds like we have 4.
I'm
Maybe
still.
4 we haven't been.
yeah, we didn't even consider poor old Lori's time involved in the whole thing.
Well, Lori.
The will of the board on this one. I'll be along for the ride either way. Doesn't matter.
Well, I think if we were doing it, it would be all 5, and I'm still kind of on the fence anyhow, so I guess.
Well, I think that anything you can do to educate yourself, and that's the purpose of FSBA, and that's why I'm involved, is that when I first got on this board, it was like, figure it out. And FSBA has been invaluable to me in seeing what's going on around the state. We're very regulated state education-wise. I'd like to know more now about what Hillsborough County has done for 4 years with Brother Bill Gates' money and how I think it's caused some schisms up there. But anyway, I mean, I like knowing what's happening in other parts of the state. I like knowing what's going on in Santa Rosa County and in St. John's and places like that. So I've found that there's power in knowledge, and because of sunshine laws, it's very difficult to get this knowledge in any way. I have been on a lot of boards, understand the dynamics of boards, but I've always thought that the more we did in that regard, the better off we were toward being and working well, for the good of the board. So I can take it either way. I am about to finish up finally my certification being a certified board member. I did taking it because they only did the board for 15 years.
Well, that's one of the training that I think we should see is the labor negotiations part of it. I mean, I think that's a training that we could even do here.
That would be something that I would think would be beneficial to us all as well.
Isn't that one just coming up? Are we?
It is coming up,
It's up
but
there,
it's something that we could do as an on-site training thing too, if there was something we wanted to do on an on-site training
You
thing.
can tailor it to what you want, right?
Yeah. I hate to say there's 3 that would and one that would come along and one that wouldn't, and that's kind
Not
of.
worth it.
Yeah.
Unless you have people who really want to do it, it's not worth it. And I don't need to take the.
Well, I'm interested in all or nothing.
Well, and here's, the other part of that is I have taken I've been on the board a long time, taken a lot of FSBA training, and I've seen that most of FSBA training, and I know somebody's going to love this, 25% of it's informative, the other 75% is filler. And I can get the 25% on my own without needing to take the 75% of the filler. Now that's not on absolutely everything, but that's on the vast majority of things that I've seen on FSBA seminars and stuff.
I found the training that they did on ethics was very informative, and that's another thing. We have to do ethics training. I mean, we have to do ethics training. We could put that in there, and in fact, it would give us a chance to ask questions about issues that pertain to locally. Even that question on when can we attend a public forum like what's happening with the city commission? Where does that cross the line? And emails and some of those things. I mean, we might be able to get some answers on some of those things, but. Or maybe that's something we can think about, what training do you think might be useful? Those are just two things that I thought would be training topics that might be worthwhile, would have been the ethics training, that we wouldn't have to go out and do ethics training again if in fact it worked that way. But I didn't want to ask them if they wanted to do it. And then the other one would have been the labor training.
Well,
So
I think it's
assume that's
I think it's a
dying
good
out.
idea, and I will say this, Frank, from what I've seen in the 4 years of attending a lot of these meetings, I think that if anything, the advent of Andrea taking over the training component, that the level and expertise of training to me has gone way, way up in
That may be.
SBA. Compared to when I first started, I can be critical of others because I've attended some really great trainings in my life. It was like, whoa, I think it's really a step, several steps above what it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, and
But I think
the
we can
last
all
match
do it, or
report.
Anything else on that topic? Citizens Academy, Shirley.
Well, it's just that, I wanted to make sure that doesn't fall off our plate, that it gets put on there, that we come back to it, because I think we're looking at the training for the financial advisory group that might expand to a citizens advisory.
We're doing it a step at a
We kind of
time.
talked about it at the board meeting, but
Yes, we are doing it a step at a time because it's certainly an investment of everyone's time in both design and implementation.
And you're
So-
talking about the Citizens Academy, you're talking about the design of the Citizens Academy or the advisory committee and
So the thought was to start with the Financial Advisory Committee and look at that design, perhaps then informing a design of a Citizen Academy. And see how successful, and give input from the Financial Advisory Committee members on what they felt was good, what they would change, and that kind of input. So they're actually in that design, we're starting with them in terms of all of the members completing a survey about what they feel would be most beneficial. Also their time availability. So
You're
we
talking about the Financial Advisory Committee now.
Right. And then, upon completion of that we might use that information in looking at a Citizen Academy.
I love the idea of a Citizens Academy. I'm not sure if that's the name we'll go with or what, and like I said, I've been speaking with Scott, and it was kind of funny how worlds aligned, last meeting, because I'm involved with the leadership of Sarasota with the Chamber, and I reached out to Scott because they do, I don't know if you guys are familiar with their adult and youth programs, but they highlight, education's one day, and Scott is very, very well known and famous in the Chamber because they really enjoyed his presentation. I mean, he's very charismatic, he's energetic, and he's very passionate. And so in talking to them, I explained the facilities tour, and there was a huge interest in it. And I know I've thought about this in the past, and even when I did it, and then to conversations we've had a lot, just finding ways to showcase really the behind the scenes that so many people have absolutely no idea that takes place, and what really the magnitude of running a district of our size, and really what taxpayers' dollars go to, because I think we have some amazing things, especially on the facility side, that you do want to show. And so I don't know if we can meld those together. It's kind of the same thought process. That's why I thought it was interesting that they came about almost at the same time. So, and I'm going to still meet with Scott, because the logistics I understand, and cost is obviously something we have to look at, but I think it would be advantageous for us all together. If you're opening the doors and really saying to the community, here, let's really show you what's going on, I think it's a win-win all around. So I don't, what timeline are you, of course, I always want to do things quick. So, but I also agree with doing it right. So what were we, I know you said next year, kind of start
Well, where we are in the year, and we wanted to do some preliminary work with our financial advisory committee and get some input from them, I thought, as to what they thought. I mean, I'd like for people to see Sarasota Middle. I'd like for people to see what we're doing with Alta Vista and, the summer program. Some of the unique things we're doing at the technical college. Some of the things we're doing in our high schools. I mean, our high schools are humming along, and, not only at capacity, but they certainly are doing an awful lot of things now, interfacing with intern programs and hospital internships and so forth. So there's a whole lot of good stuff that people don't know anything about. And you take the whining, I'll just use that word gingerly, that Superintendent White and I saw in this community before the referendum. And I will say this, that the majority of that is about people who know nothing about our schools. So they don't see any perceived value in a lot of things, because they've never walked in a school before, they've never been in a school. They went to a school, so they know everything about schools. But I find that a lot of that was people that just really hadn't seen anything. So, maybe we could, that's a one-day shot you're looking at with
well, I was thinking, we were talking, well, that's how it evolved, and then we were thinking maybe even doing something quarterly, if you will, and doing it, and maybe brainstorming, reaching out to the community. What are the things you want to see? What are the things that they don't really know about? And kind of coming off the heels of the advisory committee, telling us what they would like to see. Because facilities is one piece, obviously the curriculum, the tech active things we have going on, some of the construction things that, what goes into making those decisions. I think all of those things are beneficial. I'm just using facilities for because I thought it was.
Well, here's what I think, and this is just my idea. I think that if we try to incorporate, and we can talk to Mitzi about this, I have a meeting with her planned about some other things, but I think if we could get the Financial Advisory Committee, as they promote this out with the highway and byways of their community outreach, I think that's the perfect time to get some dialogue and some feedback as to what some of these folks think, or would they be interested? Because we're looking at Gulf Coast Builders, we're looking at, all the associations under COBA, and so forth, and I think that would be, and we're looking at doing that short term, I would hope, because this information we just came out with, it's all great information. I mean, I absolutely love what we saw today, so I think maybe that would be a great planning tool for us, but I don't know that we can really get it going the way we want to quarterly until next year.
Okay.
And I would not mind seeing us take the leadership group and put them through and get some feedback from them, say, what did you.
We're doing that. I've been on Leadership Sarasota, the education day for the last, 8 years. And I put together a platform. We're going to Sarasota Middle,
This year,
SMA, ME, Booker
great.
Middle.
Oak Park, right?
Okay, great.
And then we are having lunch at Oak Park, which I've scheduled Scott to speak there. And then they're doing a panel. Would you like to talk about it?
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Then we're doing a higher ed panel up in one of the Greenland, I think it is. I'm not sure because I don't get involved in that.
So with the board's direction, we are starting with the financial advisory just to get some input. The challenge is many of the things that we want to showcase are during the day. And so it's also trying to be respectful of their ability to give up work days, because these are generally working people. But that's kind of what we'll learn in terms of what's feasible. And so we wanted to have enough time in their planning, because I think the real value is when you're seeing, particularly on the school sites, that you're seeing it where students are there. I mean, when we look back at what we did before, we used to have a citizen advisor or academy, but it was a evening. I think they did one field trip, but it was basically an after hours kind of hour and a half, and it was over, and it was presentations, which there are some things that that's fine for, to get background information and useful, just like Scott speaking, but it's also then to have the site. If you don't see it, it's not the same. So I think that's what we have to work through. Just so you know, communications is taking the lead in this, because if it would be a Citizens Academy design, so it's the people, just to know that they're, even with the financial advisory, because that will be preliminary to a Citizen Academy, that they're taking the lead. So they're doing the survey, they're working through that, and I think it's most appropriate that that would be the department that would be responsible for this type of outreach. That's who did it before. Yes, it came out of communications rather than any other one department owning this, and it's really not the typical function of finance, even though they're, because this is really acquainting them with parts of the district that well exceed the financial part, but have implications in their decisions. So I think very appropriate and part of the orientation. So that's where we're at. They are working with Natalie in designing the survey. I've let all members know that that will be going out, so we'll know when they're available and what they're interested in, and then we'll start designing those plans and trying to schedule when the most can participate. Certainly there can be other things such as the leadership group that we can learn from that and get feedback in terms of how that might.
Definitely, yeah, there's tons of, there's no shortage of organizations
No.
to reach out to in Sarasota. So
But it's
that's where it
interesting,
started.
the demise of the Citizen Academy was, we did, I think, 2 rounds, and then had a considerable drop-off of participation.
Interesting. How long ago was that?
It was with Sheila Weiss, so
Yeah,
it's been
I
a
was
long,
gonna say,
So
Sheila
it's
it
been
was
over 8
she,
years.
and it was a huge investment because it was all after hours of other people, and we rotated it, and it was, the individuals paid for a dinner kind of, so it was around the dinner time, which we thought had the most. And so it was, I think, beneficial. It's just, you know, who we found then by the end, the ones that finally we decided this doesn't make any sense, the people that were participating, they were school board employees.
Oh, really?
They were the highest number, because they had a great interest, and if you're a teacher or a guidance counselor working at a school, you don't know about some of these other things, so it was understandable, but that we thought, maybe this is a time to consider some different things. So that's why I think it's our challenge is to perhaps look at the design, so if we do something, if we invest that time, that it truly is something that is of interest and will over time be sustained. So that's the plan.
Good.
Okay?
I like it.
Anything else on that? Jane, Health Advisory Committee update.
Well, I think from time to time we go over some things. You know, we meet quarterly, the Sarasota County Health Advisory Committee. I serve on that committee proudly and quite involved with the group. And we have the epidemiologist from the health department, a lot of health department employees, dentists, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, all kinds of health providers, both from the private sector as well as from the school board. We have shared rentals, and we have our folks who are our contacts and interface at the health department. But at any rate, we had a really good meeting the first of the year, and I just wanted to share a few things about what we discussed. We talked about our youth, we looked over the youth risk behavior survey that Lori has done that shows something about suicide and how many people had drinks and cigarettes and a lot of things that impact young people, and tried cocaine, tried marijuana, had 5 or more drinks in one day. Seems to be fairly static across the board from, I would say, 2003 right across. It's pretty much the same numbers, but I didn't know if that's something you'd like copies of. I can certainly have Zoe make copies of this for you. Surely this might be helpful to you. And
Just forward, you not print the damn thing.
no, I have to get the electronic. I don't have it electronically, but I will get it and get it to you. Yes, that's what I mean. And so I think that was really good information. We always get an athletic trainer. You know, we subcontract out our trainers, And we always get a snapshot of the quarter and how well we're doing. We're particularly interested in concussions and injuries, doctor referrals and that sort of thing. It seems that we're a little below in concussions this year. We're hoping that our concussion protocol is
Just gonna have to
helping.
try harder.
Well, I'm hoping that, well, you know, a lot of cheerleaders are number one.
Don't print that.
We use this impact protocol. We do precognition testing for our athletes, and that's fed into a computer. And so we have that baseline in case they need to go to a neurologist to be checked out, so we know what that is. We've been doing that for a number of years.
You're saying the cheerleaders get a lot of concussions?
Cheerleaders get a lot of concussions.
So
I
maybe
think
we
we
ought to
need
get them to wear
to
helmets.
schedule some more football games, get our
But our
concussions
concussions were
up.
down from 17 in 2013-14 to so far this year 8, and that's good. But we also are doing a study now with Dr. Stein, who is studying football concussions more explicitly than other things. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So I just mentioned that.
They do any studies on, and this is just kind of a personal guess from what I see, but you know, the kids that my grandkids hang out with, nobody's playing football anymore. Have they done any studies on youth football, or are their numbers down? I'd almost have to believe that they are, because kids aren't playing football.
I think more kids are playing at a younger age, things like flag football.
Yeah.
But they're playing a lot more playing soccer
And they're
and
playing
other
soccer
things.
and
But I
lacrosse.
just, like I said, I just don't personally know that many kids whose sons and grandsons are playing
Go up to
football anymore.
17th Street. and
But-
Back in the
17th
day.
On a Saturday morning.
There's every reason to believe, it's in certain communities, and in certain communities it isn't, but there's every reason to believe that children shouldn't be involved in impact sports because of concussions till they're 14. And they've got all kinds of new helmets now with devices on them that can monitor head injuries and so forth a lot better. But at least we are doing a better job, I will tell you that, than other districts are doing in both monitoring and having this precognition testing from impact, but also in parent education and student education. I can remember having a concussion at 5 years old, falling off of the handrail and hitting my head on a flagstone and being out for a long time. Of course, nobody took me to the doctor because that was in the Stone Ages. But, you know, we said that was, you got your
Did
bell
you see
rung.
the light?
That's probably what's been wrong all this time. I'm very rattled now.
Did you go towards the light?
Yeah. But, you know, we said you had your bell rung. And, you know, today we are much more insightful. I thought you stayed home with a concussion, but you stayed home in a dark room with no music playing, and no TV on, and no book that you're reading. Your brain is supposed to be totally inactive, and you're supposed to be sedated
Your hands are active.
to get well. Yeah, and a lot of people don't do that, but I mean, that's really what the protocol calls for, is the brain to be totally devoid of all these stimulations and so forth. And I think we're doing a much better job. I think our trainers are, I think our coaches are, I think the protocol that we use when we suspect concussion, and it's something that does impact the rest of a child's life. And the third thing that I will mention is, or the fourth, I guess I have four things, is that homeless, we're up to about 418 students this year.
That's low.
I thought it was low. They have all
At a
these
given time.
Remember, it's not low for any given time. It's about 2,000 over the course
Yeah.
of a year.
Yeah.
So this is one snapshot. That's
Yeah.
why you have to always be careful with numbers on homeless, because
Right.
when they give you that total amount, it
But
is,
this is when
homeless come and go.
this is when it exponentially gets larger too, because a lot of people come here after the holidays and so forth and
400
so
is
on.
large number.
And then the last thing I'll mention is that you all probably don't know, but we have had an abstinence education grant for some time.
I know.
And, well, maybe not everybody knows, but we surveyed 246 students, and, you know, it happens normally in the Hope classes of 9th grade, and the kids go, I don't need this. Of course, they also think, you know, that HIV you can get from a mosquito. You know, parents are not educating kids. Let's face it, when it comes to some of the things that they need to know, parents are not doing the job, and kids don't want them to, I'm convinced. I see that all the time. I ask my grandson questions that's like, no, I don't want to talk about that. But we do have an absence grant. It does run out later this year. We're hoping to renew it. But we've had some really good results with these kids who are more empowered, I think, to make good choices and are also better educated at some things that they need to really know about. So I just thought I would,
Well, I think the one thing that is very important in any abstinence education, that it's not just about the health, but it's the legal ramifications. I mean, if a kid takes a picture and sends it
Oh,
to
yes.
someone else, I mean, you're talking felony charges, and you're talking about charges that are gonna follow that kid throughout their life, and may keep them from being a teacher or a nurse.
right,
And-
this is
Or
really
even
about
walking onto their child's school.
teen pregnancy, STDs, HIVs, and that sort of thing, and there's an awful lot of misunderstanding, maybe of parents as well as students about what that really is. But it's 8 modules that they get, and the feedback has been quite good on the other side of it. It's quite like, we don't need this on the front side, but they don't need it because they don't really understand it, so.
Well, I would like you to share that with them, that I think in addition to the health aspects of abstinence, they need to talk about the legal ramifications.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I really think that it's been a good program. And we're going to do some special modules now at Triad and at SCSB, because it doesn't seem that some of our SCSB students are, have gotten message too loud and clear, because there's a repeat, a lot of second children and so forth in that unit. So I just mentioned that because it's all good stuff, but those are important things. And I guess we are much more advanced, again, in this county in how we work with the health department. Some of our nurses are health department employees, and some of them are school board employees, so we work jointly. But we have a much stronger base of support. We have a much stronger committee. We tried to go out and do some outreach to other counties to find out what they're doing on various different things, and we found out that some of them aren't doing anything. It's like, oh, we really don't have a health advisory committee that meets, so just bring that up.
Right. Again, our planning, our cooperation, and working together with our community is so strong.
Yes.
Back in the day, I passed a bill called Enable Education Now, Babies Later. It was about telling kids what they could do besides sex, like bake cookies, play Monopoly. Whatever, I probably still have the pens and the t-shirts.
Can we go to other?
Lori has another. Go ahead.
I know Shirley, and I think Jane also talked about interest in the public broadcasting service learning media.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to be presenting to our district curriculum staff so that they can incorporate that in their trainings. And they'll be here Friday at 8:30. So my suggestion, rather than, since that's the group you want them to presenting to, rather than them trying to schedule something just for the board, that if you are interested, you could attend. I need to know in order to notice the meeting. Because if I have more than one attending, so if I know it's short notice.
I will not attend.
That reading on
I
grade
can't
level
either.
is at 7:30.
When was it? I'm sorry,
It's
what was it?
8:30 on this Friday.
Oh,
We
isn't
have
there
we have that Tom Tryon thing.
that's in the, at
Some
the
of you-
PM, but there's something.
8:30 a.m.
Yeah.
The reading on grade level is from 8:35 to 9, but.
So if you're going to that
come in half
breakfast-
an hour
I'll be-
late.
Yeah, I am going to that.
They're only, they're presenting, it's not a very long presentation, so they would probably be done but by 9 o'clock. I think they're first on the agenda.
For the
Who are
breakfast?
they presenting to?
They're presenting to all our district instructional staff,
Oh, okay.
the people that do, it's at the district level.
Got it.
These are the people that go out and do trainings with the teachers, and so they need to have the information so they can incorporate it as appropriate in their trainings.
And you said that was 8 to 9?
It starts at 8:30.
And where will it be?
It'll be in Blue 221.
Well, I think since the reading on grade level is also at 5:30, I'm going to try to make that.
Okay, I've got one. I don't need to advertise it for one.
Yeah, I'm going to be at the Patterson one on Michael, so.
So is anyone else wanting to attend this?
No.
Wanting to?
No,
Right.
will, are
Will?
planning to.
Well, are they going to come back at another time or probably not?
Probably not, because, I mean, the idea is our district staff then take the information and they incorporate it in their trainings. It's probably
Well,
very
I think
similar
I'd
to
rather
what
see
you
it
got.
going to the school rather than to the district staff.
Well, the idea is you can't have them go to every school, so what we're doing
They're
is
training the trainers.
they're training the trainers that they'll then incorporate it as part, because these are not huge, trainings. It's a familiarity with the resource that we're recommending, and they do it as part. If they're teaching a math group of teachers, here's a resource for you to look at as part of your bank of tools that you have available.
Because I thought they got a grant from Community Foundation to go into the school.
Well, and that's what's bringing them down here, to
So that
provide
is
all of
for
our
that.
trainers.
I know
that-
they went into Sarasota Military, the middle school, and I know they've gone into some schools
Well, I'm
already.
sure they would. They probably won't go to 50, so it's an easier way of giving it out to a large number of schools by incorporating it. It also has better attendance. You have more likelihood, because if they're coming to learn math resources, here's some other information, rather than having it designating only this resource. So I just wanted you to be aware of this training, so if there's an interest, and so I would know to tell Zoe to advertise if I'm going to have more than two, or two or more, I should say. So I just have one, so if there's just
Well,
one,
yeah,
then surely,
because I know I've got the other thing at the same time, and I don't know.
I'm
So-
busy Friday.
that's fine. Okay? That was my other.
I haven't.
Other?
Yeah.
Whichever.
Good.
Mine's really quick. Oh, Bridget, you're...
It's actually interesting, again, coming off some of the stuff that you were discussing with the Health Advisory Committee, and the conversation about, but basically, are you guys familiar with Sail of Freedom?
Yes.
Yes.
I have spoken to them, and I've learned about some of the things that they've done with other school districts. And it's an awareness about, now they use the word human trafficking, which is now changed. I mean, it's what it used to be known as prostitution, but federally changed for the prosecution of the people. But they've done a rally, or they've done different things. They did something at Cardinal Mooney, they did something in Manatee County, they've done a lot of different, basically, not a pep rally, but communication pieces with different schools at the middle school and high school level. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that and see what your thoughts were. I know that I think awareness is, there's a large part of it that I think is important. I know obviously there's circumstances that happen are still probably being investigated in our district, but not on the district schools, but are actually, it's a conversation that's taking place in our schools. So I wanted to get some feedback on you guys and hear what your thoughts were if we were to do something like that, an awareness piece at our middle schools and high schools.
You mean have them come in and speak to our middle schools and high schools? Normally, I thought how we handled that is it goes through a committee. The committee is that Sherry Reynolds runs that committee for safe and drug-free schools.
Okay.
And they come in and make a presentation at that committee, and then they decide whether or not the presentation meets the standards necessary for them to come in and talk to us.
And my understanding is they may have done that in the past, and I'll double check. I'm not sure if there was any interest, but that was previous to. Do you have, yes, I'm trying to read your face.
Particularly if it's health-related, that, we kind of help our principals say, this has been reviewed, it's fine, it's still an option. And there are many things out there for presentations for schools, with probably a time when we're doing less of that, only because it takes them out of the classroom. And so I have never required a middle school or high school to do something. I leave it up to them, and they'll go through their shared decision-making team or their SACs in terms of that. And they do occasionally have these rallies, or they have where they have presentations on different issues, particularly at the high school, somewhat at the middle school. But I know in the last few years, and this is statewide, it's not a phenomenon here, there is real caution in pulling all the students for a single event, although it's still done, just not perhaps as frequently, because teachers resent time taken away from their instructional time, even with the best messages, and that's why I say it's a balance. So I will check and see if this organization has at least been reviewed, but just know that's just to assure principals if they choose to schedule it. It's just, this is something that's been reviewed and has been approved, and I'm sure it would be.
Bridget, what's the name of the,
Selah Freedom, SELAH Freedom.
I know when they came before the county for a grant, there was some concern because it was a new organization and how do you fund them? And, you know, because, I mean, I think that was about the same time that the backlash came about that other program for boys, young men, and Man Up, and how, you know, that wasn't run as well as it should have. So, but I agree that it needs to be filled and run it through to see if it, what they're trying to tell us. But I agree that it's probably a good message, because when these teenagers just drop off.
Well, I think it's that
But I'm sure the YMCA, the Homeless Coalition, talks to those, I mean, because those are the ones who are really, I mean, if they run away from the homeless shelters and whatnot like that, and the programs we got out there, but I would assume that they're probably already.
And the runaway
Well,
shelter.
but it's interesting, it's actually statistically, when you look at it, it's not specifically those, it's the, you wouldn't think it's the ones that are in more of a middle class environment and home. It's really shocking, and again, I think it really, and I always want to leave it up to those schools, because I think that's what makes the most sense, but I wanted to raise awareness of it, because I think coming off the heels of things that have happened and that conversation, and kind of coming off the heels of what we were talking about, and students maybe asking for certain things, this may be a good direction to, and put them all in the room, and the awareness piece, I think, is very important, that's all, so.
But you have to make sure that their message that they're giving
Exactly.
the students, so that's why it goes through this vetting, because they actually have to present to this committee.
Right, well, and I also
What they
want
want
to
to be
be
talking
tailored,
about.
so that what they did at one school may not be appropriate, or what that school will sign off on, and I understand that as well, so, but again, I just wanted to bring it up, because I think it could bring some value.
I know that we were, as we have been concerned with suicide for some years now, and had a rash of issues a few years ago with that happening. This past year, we did a suicide poster that we had, that were hung in middle and high schools, that created a lot of dialogue, and that didn't take students away, but it was something in certain public areas. Very thoughtfully done, you know, and we didn't do this, it was a campaign for this, but it really was insightful, according to what I've heard from teachers.
Carolyn?
Yes, all I wanted to ask is, where do we stand with the circus lease? I thought we all had agreed that it can go to.
I didn't get that, and we can review the minutes. As I recall, and I could be wrong, so, my feeling was that the board did not feel that this was worthy of the investment of time and energies to extend from what was a 45-year lease to a 100-year lease. So that I did not get the message that the board was, yes, we want you to, because there is time and energy and attorney costs to put it back before the board, and that it was, the feedback I got, that it was hard to believe that there was this so substantial a benefit to the circus, given the difference between a 45-year lease and a 100-year lease, to be worthy of that investment. Now, if I misinterpreted, I will go
I
forward.
thought the same thing.
Now, see, I thought nobody cared, so if you want to do 42 years or 100 years, it didn't matter. That's.
Well, I think that
the
it didn't
message
matter,
I
then it
got.
was okay to wait,
Do it.
wait at least, well, I said that it was okay to then wait until it was a little bit less than 42 or whatever it is now,
Well,
45.
they say they need it in order to get the grants that they're looking for an extended.
I know, but that was kind of, I think there was questioning, is that really,
Yeah, it doesn't make
it
sense.
doesn't
All
make
right, 'cause I'm
sense.
getting asked.
I understand, but that was why there, I have not taken it
Not
forward.
interested. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell them the board is not interested in extending the lease.
How long have we had a lease with them? 2.5 years?
No.
It's been not that long ago that it went to the board. I mean, it's, when it went from PALS to,
Yeah, that's what.
that was the
When it
time
went
that,
from
when it
PALS.
transitioned to the new organization, then it's when
Right.
it went back to the board.
Right.
And I think right now it's a
42
42-year lease, where there is no intention that currently to think about not having it at some point extended, but it seems like you have is now the time to invest in that kind of extension.
And they want it to go to 100.
They want to go to
Yeah.
100
Well, when you're
years.
building buildings to 25-year standards,
What?
I have another,
what
are
are you
you,
looking for 100?
Caroline, are you good on that?
Yeah,
Anymore.
I tell you, I'm gonna tell them no, that the board said no. Because I get asked, I have my grandsons at Sailor Circus, so I'm asked all the time.
I don't mean to put you on the spot on my other, but on the health insurance, you know, Mitzi kind of, if you didn't know about it already, Mitzi said basically that on the self-insure, on the unrestricted fund balance, that we can basically designate the reserve money that we need to designate without taking it out. So in other words, it's still there.
Yeah.
But, so, because I know the union was concerned about us spending down our reserves on the health insurance. But what I want to ask you about is, and I know what Jane said this morning, and I agree 100%, that I think we need to
Get
I
on
keep
with
I
it.
think-
going, because I honestly would like to see it for next year.
No, I think that's, honestly, I think we are on track for that. I think it's wise to use the Financial Advisory Committee as a very appropriate,
agree.
thoughtful, that they can kind of help lead the way, and so that we see not just the moving from self-insurance, but the possibilities that might come after that. We have that community link. So I think it's appropriate, and I don't see any reason why we could not be on track for making that decision.
Now, it's my understanding that does not have to be negotiated. If we give them the same benefits, do they?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think how we achieve that. Certainly, they'll voice an opinion, but I think, well, but that might change
Yeah.
given the difference. I don't think anybody's opposed. Everybody knows that if you save money with health costs, that benefits everybody, and particularly if you have the same level of benefits. So I don't think there isn't an opposition. There's concern, like there were some concern among some board members in terms of what does this mean in us assuming the risk and the whole set aside of the dollar. So I think we're working through that. I need to engage the financial, that will be their number one priority. So if you just give us a little bit more time to go through that process, I think we're right on track with where we need to be.
I wasn't trying to push, I just wanted to make
No.
sure that I saw that timeline to where.
That's why I asked Mitzi in that forum to give you an update, because it was a perfect opportunity to get
long as-
This
that
is not a
information.
nickel dime option, this is a big
Well-
ticket item, and it's something that we,
But let's not rush to the end
Right.
and then have everything backloaded, and then we don't have
No,
time to make it. and
I
then we-
appreciate
yeah,
that,
it rolls over.
but I think it's good use of that committee to be the
Yeah.
ones to kind of set the stage, and it's certainly within their area of responsibility.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing is the capital needs, the facility, where.
Well, remember, it doesn't, one does not necessitate the
mean
other,
the other.
and in fact, there are some districts that are that don't feel that's the most beneficial avenue. There's other options that are available that are more cost-effective and more distributed geographically. So there's options. So I think, yes,
I don't think- I
well,
don't
whether
think
or
it's
not
an
you have the
either
clinic.
or at this point in time,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I'm trying to get everyone to go step at a time.
Not too much.
So until you're self-insured, none of the rest of that matters. You're only benefiting, it matters. That's not correct to say, but it doesn't really financially necessarily benefit the district to the extent that once you're self-insured, those kinds of initiatives can have much more of a benefit.
Right.
So if we just get this first step first, but because I think some of those other decisions invite other areas of concern and deliberation, so I don't want to mix the two
Right,
like one
right.
means the other automatically. So if you will help me in that process, let's stay focused on should we be self-insured, get that step completed with the help of the Financial Advisory Committee giving us input, and then we'll move from there. What does that mean then in terms of our planning?
Because we're basically not reinventing
No, there's lots of
districts out there.
And that's been helpful, frankly, because we look at different ways of doing things that we might not have looked at. So I think there's benefits that others have gone ahead, and we can, and we will get information, and again, funnel that through the Financial Advisory Committee in terms of if we become self-insured, then what's next?
And who's the point person in the district for, is that risk management?
Yeah, well, Mitzi is the primary, and she's the one that's leading financial advisory, which is another reason why it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
That's exciting.
Any other?
Yep.
Shirley?
The
Congress is looking at the reauthorizing of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and looking at what they put forward, eliminating the AYP and using state annual reporting and eliminating the maintenance of effort provisions, and eliminating the current school improvement grants, which we talked about having to fund those positions now through our budget, and the 21st Century Learning Community Programs, and some of those other things. Is this something that, and they're also talking about the Title I and the IP grants. Is this something that our lobbyists are watching, or do we have a position on any of these things, or is...
I'm not aware of
Looking at it?
any position they really have. It is still somewhat vague, although those are some big items. AYP's already gone. Many of those things are already in place, and the school improvement grant process is different than Race to the Top. Race to the Top is completed, it will not be extended.
And
School
there's a lot of
improvement
people-
grants were big federal grants that were really through the authorization, so that were a part of that original. So many of those things have already changed, and now it's trying to get it caught up to be, what is it we want? Because Race to the Top, because they didn't have they still had AYP, there was a way of kind of avoiding some of those issues that were going,
Well, I thought
before
we
they
avoided it by
reauthorized.
getting that grant, and if that grant goes away,
No, it doesn't,
where do we
not
have to-
necessarily. But they are obviously working towards that. So yes, our lobbyist does have a federal component. I don't know if they're at a point yet that they need to get feedback, because I think it's still being formalized. What are the possible changes that are being suggested? Because there's a long list.
The only thing I've read about is the NCLB rewrite. That seems to be...
That's what she's talking
That's
about.
what it is. That's the
that rewrite of taking a lot of it out of it,
Right.
because Republicans are not interested in re-upping, that it might be a minimal at best program, but there's a couple of articles that I've read in the last week about that.
Mhm.
It's on the radar.
And Helen Pastori won the Special Education National Teacher of the Year.
Yeah, I was going to make an announcement on the school, it's so fine, on the superintendent's report.
That's great. Well, our district is out there.
What school is she at?
Oak Park.
But you don't want to get superintendent of the year,
No, I don't.
Oh, my
because the
gosh.
one that got superintendent of the year in
That's right.
Atlanta ended up in jail, right?
Didn't Hillsborough's twin?
And deservedly,
Now poor Mary Ellen.
deservedly so in Atlanta.
Well, yes, she did.
I think several of their board members ended up in jail too.
She was
as I remember.
superintendent for the nation.
Maybe it's a curse word.
But you don't have us, you're not making up school stuff.
No,
Erasing.
Yeah, changing.
no, no.
All right, we're adjourned. See y'all at 3.